Hello everyone, welcome to the Creole Culture channel. Today I am presenting you guys with this video, and in this video we are going to highlight all of the different, maybe not all, but we're going to highlight a few different Creole communities around the world. We're not just going to just highlight the Louisiana Creole community, even though the Louisiana Creole community is what my platform is based around. That is my target audience because that is who I am. And I just recently had a troll who came into my comment section who actually just inspired me to make this video. So shout out to the trolls. The trolls, they love to troll me, but then they never realize how the trolling ends up backfiring on them, because now you just gave me a video idea. You just gave me a content idea. So now we get to highlight all of the different, or some of the different Creole communities that they have out there. I just had a troll came into my comment section. He decided to leave me a comment and he told me something along the lines of, Creole is not exclusive to Louisiana. I guess he was trying to make it seem as though that I'm trying to make Creole exclusive to Louisiana, when that's not what I was trying to do, and that's not even anywhere near anything that I ever stated on my channel. I'm very well aware that there's different types of Creoles, but they're not my target audience. Even though I know that they're there, I know that they exist. There's actually one content creator that I follow on here. I'm going to actually tag her in this video. She's a Cape Verdean content creator. She's Creole, but she's a different type of Creole. Okay? But I still respect the fact that they're a type of Creole. I understand that. So, he was just the person that made that comment. He's just a troll. He's just trying to get me worked up. But unfortunately for him, it just didn't work. And it's actually backfired on you, buddy, because now you just gave me a perfect video idea. So in this video, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to highlight all of the different, not all, because I'm pretty sure there's other ones that I'll probably end up missing, but we'll highlight some of them. We'll highlight some of the different Creole communities and how their culture is different from the Louisiana Creole culture. You know what I'm saying? Just because they're Creole doesn't mean that they're the same. Okay? Yes, they are Creoles, just like I'm Creole, but they're a different type of Creole. And we're going to show the similarities between the cultures, and we're going to show the differences between the cultures. We're going to talk about the Louisiana Creoles, of course. We're going to talk about the Haitian Creoles. We're going to talk about the Cape Verdean Creoles. And we're going to talk about some other types of Creoles as well. So stay tuned in. Now, this is the individual that came to my channel. He attempted to be a smartass. He thinks that I'm not aware that there's other types of Creoles. But there's some key components that he's missing here. There's some important key components that he's missing here that he's clearly missing, and it definitely clearly went over his head. And we're going to go over the differences between the different types of Creoles. Not only are there different types of Creoles, but then you have different types of, for example, this individual says that every person with a Latin base in the Americas was considered Creole. Now here's the thing. Here's something interesting about that statement. A couple of things that's interesting about this statement. Do you realize that not all Creoles are Latin American? You have Creoles in places like Africa. And we're going to talk about the Creoles in Africa as well in this video. We're also going to break down the three main types of Creole. Okay, there's three main categories. Now, there's way more than just three different types of Creoles, but there's mainly three main categories or brackets. And then you have different all different kinds underneath these three main brackets. Or I guess you could say three main trees. And you got different branches off of these three different trees. Those three different trees, they all fall under the one big bracket, which is Latin. Like this, just as this individual said. So you have Latin, but then underneath Latin, you have French, you have Portuguese, you have Spanish. Those are the main three. Now, maybe there's more, but as far as from the research I've done, there's only three different Creole bases. Maybe there's other ones. If somebody, maybe I need to go look that up and do my research. That could be something I could look up. But the main three that I know of are Spanish, French, and Portuguese. Okay? French-based Creole, which is what I am. Louisiana is actually both French and Spanish-based, but it's mainly French-based because that's who started it. The Spanish do play a role in the Louisiana Creole identity and culture. The Spanish influence does play a major role in the Louisiana Creoles and our identity, and our culture, but we're still mainly French-based. We're a mainly French-based type of Creole. When it comes to French-based Creoles, we differ greatly from Portuguese Creoles and especially Spanish-based Creoles. We differ from them greatly. And these are going to be the major key components that this individual missed. But he wanted to come to my channel and try to be a smartass. And he did this because he purposely just wants to troll me. You know, and he thinks he's so informed, and people always think they're so informed until they get informed and they get schooled. Then they feel embarrassed. But you did it to yourself. You thought you knew it all. So now let's go over it. Let's go over the differences between French-based Creoles, Spanish-based Creoles, and the Portuguese-based Creoles. Let's go over it. As you can see, we have the Louisiana Creoles, we have the Haitian Creoles, we have the Cape Verde Creoles. Now, I should have made a slight difference to this this imagery. I should have put Dominicans in the middle instead of Haitian, because Haitians are still French-based just like Louisiana. But Cape Verdeans are Portuguese-based. Now, let me point something out. We're going to go over it. We'll go over it later in the video. But you can see the cultures are still very similar. There's a lot of similarities between all the Creoles. And basically what you could basically call us, I guess you could basically call us sibling communities. Sister communities. It's like we're basically like siblings. We're very, very close. Our culture is very, very similar to one another. It's basically just like Eastern Asian people. When it comes to Japanese people, when it comes to Chinese people, Korean people, their cultures are all very similar to one another and very, very much connected to one another. You know? Their cultures are very identical to one another. They do a lot of different things, but they do a lot of things exactly, like almost exactly the same, because their cultures are so connected to one another. It's just like the Creoles. Our cultures are very, very, very similar, very, very connected. So we're still different groups. We're not all the same ethnic group. We're different groups. We all fall under Creole, so we're all a part of the Creole family, right? But that doesn't mean we're all the same. So the individual that made that comment, it's like, I don't understand what his point was with making that comment, because I'm a Louisiana Creole. I'm not a Haitian Creole. I'm not a Cape Verdean Creole. I'm not a Dominican Creole. And here's the thing, Dominicans don't even refer to themselves as Creole, even though they technically could be considered Creole, but they don't call themselves that. But Louisiana Creoles, we actually call ourselves that. Cape Verdean Creoles, they actually call themselves Creole, but Dominicans don't call themselves Creole. They call themselves Dominican, or they call themselves Latino. They might even sometimes call themselves Hispanic, but they don't call themselves Creole. Okay, and we're going to get into that. Once again, the individual who made that comment, I'm going to break it all down for him and for the rest of the people. That's not a good argument, because you got certain types of Creoles who don't even call themselves Creole. They don't even use that term, even though they still could be called a Creole. If I would have called them a Creole, they can't deny it. If I break down the history and the social studies for them. But it doesn't change the fact that within their culture, they don't really use that term very often. And we're going to get into that. French-based Creoles. Creole as an identity. When it comes to French-based Creoles, we normally actually use the term Creole to identify ourselves. We actually use the name and the term and the word Creole to identify who we are. We use it as an identifier marker. Okay, and this is one major difference between the French-based Creoles and the Spanish-based Creoles. Once again, the individual who made that comment in my comment section, his comment was very, very it was ignorant, and it was just a very super weak argument that really logically just made no sense. And he was clearly trying to troll me. But now we're going to break down the reality behind the situation. Over time, Creole came to mean the new mixed identity. Language, food, music, and people all tied together. Example, Haitians often say, moi say Creole. In Louisiana, Creole is a cultural identity, not just a language. Let me repeat that. In Louisiana, the term Creole is an actual cultural identity and identifier, not just a language. So what does that mean? That means we actually call ourselves Creoles. That's a big, major difference between us and Dominicans or Puerto Ricans or Colombians. Dominicans don't usually call themselves Creole in the everyday sense. They use Dominicano first. But linguistically and culturally, the Dominican Republic has Creole elements. Spanish-based Creoles, different self-labels. In the Spanish colonial world, the term Creole originally meant Spaniards born in the Americas, not mixed, but pure Spanish ancestry in the New World. And here's the thing. That also applies to the French-based Creoles as well. Originally, at first, it was for the Europeans, but eventually it came for the mixed people and the black people and everything in between. And it says, because of this, Creole didn't become a unifying label for mixed populations or African-descended communities. Instead, terms like mestizo, mulattoes, were used often with negative connotations. And see, that's the thing with the French-based Creoles. The terms like mulatto and quadroon within French-based Creole culture was not really, it wasn't as negative. Like, it wasn't really the terms were not used as negatively because, within French-based Creole culture, mixed people typically became free. We were free people of color. And oftentimes our black mothers, the black mothers of these mulatto and quadroon kids, they were also freed. They were also a part of the free people of color. And eventually a whole entire community of free people of color came into existence, which included mixed people, mulatto people, quadroon people, and fully black people, and griffs, so on and so forth. Right? That's another key component about French-based Creole culture that differs greatly from other cultures, such as Anglo culture or Spanish culture. You feel me? Key component of why the differences exist. French colonies, smaller European populations, stronger African cultural retention, and more social mixing. Creole emerged as a shared identity. Shared identity. Now, when it comes to Latin culture, it's still very, very similar. Very, very similar, but and the way it's similar is when you're dealing with Dominicans or you're dealing with Brazilians, it doesn't matter what race you are. If you're Dominican and you're still a part of the culture and identity, that is who you are. You're Dominican, and that's what they go based off of. They don't really go based off of race. They go based off of your culture. But when it comes to the actual term Creole, the term Creole within itself was used entirely different, depending on which Creole base we're talking about. Right? So when it comes to Louisiana Creoles, we come in a multitude of shades, phenotypes, races, whatever you want to call it. And the same thing with Dominicans. They come in black, white, mixed, mulatto, quadroon, so on and so forth. Some of them might have more Taino, Indian blood, so on and so forth. Same thing with the Louisiana Creoles. It's just that the wording is different. The way we label ourselves is different. But there's still a lot of similarities between our cultures, a lot. You see that individual who came into my comment section trying to troll me? Excuse me. He attempted to come to my channel and he tried to be a smart ass and it backfired on him. Apparently he didn't realize that Creoles don't only exclusively exist within Latin America. He tried to make it seem like I was making it out to be that Creole is exclusive to Louisiana when I never said that, and I never tried to push that idea, because that's simply just not true. And I know that to not be true because I used to live in New England, and you have a Creole community in New England, and those people are called Cape Verdean Creoles, right? So I already was aware that there were other types of Creoles. When I lived in New England, that was a long time ago. I was a kid. At that time, I always knew that I had Creole roots and heritage because my mother would call herself that. That was like her email address. One of her usernames online, I think, was like Creole Lady something. You know, it was Creole Lady something at Gmail. That was like one of her like email usernames or whatever. And she always used to, I always used to see her use that term. And I always knew it had something to do with Louisiana culture. But at that time, when I was a kid, I never really did my research on that. I never really dug into any of that. I never really asked my mother because I really didn't care. But I always knew I had those Creole roots. And I also knew that Cape Verdeans were Creoles. You know? So I always knew that there were other types of Creoles. This is nothing new to me. I knew this for a long time now. So it was just funny that that person would make that comment when I already was aware that there were other types of Creoles. But he made a big mistake because he tried to make it seem as though Creoles only exist in Latin America. You have other Creoles in other regions of the world, buddy. So we're going to highlight the Creoles in other parts of the world. Also, I just came across some new information. We're going to talk about that. But the Creoles in Africa, here's a list of some of them. We have the obvious, Cape Verde. The ones that I know of, I actually personally know Cape Verdean people because I used to live around them. So, I know a little bit about those people. They're Creoles, and they are similar. They are very similar to Louisiana Creoles in the sense that they actually refer to themselves as Creole. They actually use the term Creole as a identifying marker. Unlike Dominicans do not use the term Creole to identify themselves. They don't use that word. Cape Verdeans, on the other hand, they actually use that term to define who they are as a people. And that's what makes them similar to Louisiana Creoles in that sense. Unlike Colombians or Filipinos or so on and so forth, they don't actually refer to themselves as Creole. We already talked about this earlier in the video. I broke that down for y'all to show y'all the difference. One of the major differences between Spanish-based Creole and French-based Creole. Now, Cape Verdeans are a Portuguese-based Creole. You got some of these other groups and some of these names I can't even pronounce. So I'd have to go do my research on them and figure out how to pronounce their names. Some of them are French-based, some of them are Portuguese-based, and some of them are even English-based. Now, see, I didn't know that. I didn't know there was an English-based Creole. English is Anglo. English is a part of Anglo culture. So I was surprised by that. But apparently, there's even an English-based Creole, even though it's not as popular. It's not as much of a thing. A lot of people probably don't really even know about it. They probably won't even acknowledge it because it's so insignificant next to the other, Creoles. But here you go, Creoles outside of Latin America. Number one, the Caribbean. And I always considered the Caribbean to be a part of Latin America. And it says right here, often grouped with Latin America because, I would still consider the Caribbean to be a part of the Latin American, group. Just because it's not connected to the mainland, the main lands, it might not directly be physically connected to Central America or South America, but it's still the Americas, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I always thought it was still Latin America. It is still Latin, and it is still in the Americas. So I don't know why, but hey, I guess. So I guess you can still group it in with Latin America, or you could not. I don't know. I have to do more research on that. Excuse me. You got the Indian Ocean Islands. You got Asia, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Singapore. You got a few different kinds, man. You got a few different ones, man. So it's just funny that, you know, somebody would come to my comment section trying to troll me, and then it backfires on you because you got it all wrong. Well, you didn't get it all wrong. You just didn't get it all right. Didn't get it all wrong. You just didn't get it all right. We have Creoles across the world, man. We got them in Latin America. We got them in Asia. We got them in Africa. And then, of course, the origins of where Creoles come from, Europe. But Creole, as we know it today, it exists on almost every single continent. The only continents they don't exist on are what? Australia, Antarctica, and I guess technically speaking you could say Europe, even though the origins of the Creoles are in Europe. But the actual Creole as we know it today, it exists in Latin America, it exists in Asia, and it also exists in Africa. That's damn near, and it exists in North America, because then if you want to include Louisiana, because Louisiana is a part of North America, it is on the North American continent, so that's already what, 4 continents. And then the Caribbean is not a continent, that's just a group of islands. So you got groups of islands, and then you got whole continents. So you got North America, that's 4 continents, that's damn near everywhere, man. It's like we got Creole ethnic groups on almost every continent. Because there's 7 continents, and if we exist on 4 continents, that's more than half of the continents. So we already exist on majority of the continents. We exist in so many different regions of the world, not just Latin America. You feel me? So that just about wraps up this video. I done basically said what I needed to say. You know? And shout out to the troll who inspired me to go ahead and make this video so I could go ahead and highlight different Creole groups and show them some love. And they got one content creator I watch on here on YouTube who's a Cape Verdean Creole. There's other content creators I watch that are Louisiana Creole, and that's about it. I've never really seen any other Creole groups. Or I mean, they got Dominicans that but like I said, Dominicans don't refer to themselves as Creole. That's the thing. And that's the thing we have to keep in mind. You got certain groups who could technically be considered a Creole people because their culture is basically Creole, but they don't call themselves that. They don't call themselves Creole. So if they don't call themselves Creole, then I'm not just going to sit here and just refer to them as a Creole, because they might find that to be slightly disrespectful. They might be like, hey man, I get what you're saying, but that's just not my culture, bro. We don't do that. We don't call ourselves that. And I can acknowledge that they don't call themselves that. So if they don't call themselves that, I'm not going to sit there and just call them that. If they're not just sitting there calling themselves that, then I'm not about to just sit here and just call them that, excuse me. So the groups who actually refer to themselves as Creole, Louisiana Creoles, Cape Verdean Creoles, Haitian Creoles, those will be the Creoles that I acknowledge as Creole, period. You know what I'm saying? My track record with Haitian Creole people on social media is not very good. Some of them, not all of them, but you got some of them Some of them be low-key racist. Some of them are high-key racist or prejudiced against mixed race people, mulatto people. And a lot of them have no problem letting that be known. A lot of them have no problem letting that be known. Some of them are a little bit more low-key with it, but I catch on eventually. So it just is what it is, man. I don't really have too many interactions with Haitian people, whether it be offline or online. And my track record with them online is bad already. So, it just is what it is. But I ain't trying to beef with no Haitians or nothing like that. I ain't trying to beef with nobody. I'm just saying. But anyways, to close the video off, like I said, I'm only going to refer to the Creole groups that actually call themselves Creole, such as Louisiana Creoles, obviously, Haitian Creoles, Cape Verdean Creoles, etc. Those are the Creoles that I'll actually acknowledge. I'm not really trying to acknowledge the other Creoles because they don't even call themselves Creole. So if they don't call themselves that, then I'm not just going to walk around here calling them that. It is what it is.